Hello and welcome to Why This Movie, a podcast about our favorite movies and why we love them so very much. Today I'm talking with comedian Luke Thayer, a guy I met back when I lived in New York.
You know, I think sometimes when we meet a person at a certain point in our lives and then we don't see them for a while, they're kind of cemented as that. So you're kind of cemented as like, gosh, I don't even know exactly what age you would have been moved away, but maybe 25 or something like that.
Yeah, like 22, 23.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of, in my mind, are that. But in my mind, I don't think, oh yeah, I was probably 26 or 27 or something like that. You know, it doesn't like. I don't think of myself in the young terms the way that I think of you that way.
You know what's funny though? I think, we've seen each other here and there over the years. I think we look better now than we did in our 20s.
I'll take it.
Myself too.
Yeah.
It's just, it happens that way sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes there's a maturity. There's a patina effect, I'll call it.
He's been doing comedy for about 20 years. His favorite movie? Rocky.
His name is Sylvester Stallone. He's the star of a new film called Rocky. He's been described as tough, handsome, talented, sexy, sensitive, dynamic, brilliant. He's been compared to Nicholson, De Niro, and Brando, but he is Rocky. He's the man who could be loved by only one woman because somehow she gets beneath the pain. He's every nobody who ever needed somebody.
Rocky, do you believe that America is the land of opportunity?
Yeah.
I'll break both your arms so they don't work for you.
He's every man who ever settled for something less.
What about my pride, Nick? At least you have pride. I ain't had no pride. I ain't had nothing. I want to get that. I want to get that.
Terrific. I mean, you could be a heartbreak. You walk down the street breaking hearts the way you're looking. Very sharp.
He's the man who never had a chance until now. Rocky. His whole life was 1,000,000-to-1 shot. His name is Sylvester Stallone, but you will always remember him as Rocky.
On the dark, gritty streets of Philadelphia, an affable but simple-minded guy lives in a flea bag apartment and ekes out a living by working for a loan shark. Here and there, he fights in boxing matches and trains in a crummy gym where his trainer has given up on him.
You know, I've been coming in for 6 years. The 6 years you've been sticking it to me. I want to know how come.
You don't want to know.
Yeah, I want to know how come.
You want to know?
I want to know how.
Okay, I'm going to tell you. Because you had the talent to become a good fighter. And instead of that, you became a leg breaker. Some cheap, second-rate loan shark.
It's a living?
It's a waste of life.
And then there's Adrian, the taciturn girl who works in the neighborhood pet shop. Rocky sees something in her that no one else, including herself, sees. He likes her, and thinks maybe he can get her to like him too. Even if, in their conversations, he's the only one doing the talking.
You need somebody to walk you home, you know? No. It's a cold night, you know. If I was you and you got the money, I would take a cab or something. Too many creeps around here, you know. Every other block there's a creep. You can always tell a creep. All right, listen, I'm gonna go now, okay? Listen, I'll see you later, all right? I know you guys get up. I know you had a hard day in the cage, right? So, I want to go home, make up a joke. I'm going to tell you a new joke tomorrow, okay? Good night, Adrian.
Good night, Rocky.
Meanwhile, there's Apollo Creed, the flashy champion boxer whose grandiose style and speech patterns are based on Muhammad Ali. As a publicity stunt in honor of America's bicentennial, Creed wants to stage a match between himself and an unknown athlete, someone who represents the spirit of the country. He picks Rocky Balboa.
This is the land of opportunity, right? So Apollo Creed on January 1st gives a local underdog fighter an opportunity. A Snow White underdog, and I'm gonna put his face on this poster with me. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm sentimental. And a lot of other people in this country are just as sentimental, and there's nothing they'd like better than to see Apollo Creed give a local Philadelphia boy a shot at the greatest title in the world on this country's biggest birthday.
The film provides one of the all-time great movie characters in Rocky Balboa. We're down when he's down. We're uplifted when he's uplifted. There's not a step he takes or a punch he throws where the audience isn't rooting for him.
I couldn't even tell you the first time I saw it beginning to end. But I would have been, I don't know, maybe 8 to 10 years old. So it was coming on television. Cable television would have it. TNT or whatever would be playing Rocky. And I don't know if people have that same experience that we would have had when I was younger. You sometimes just catch bits and pieces of a movie. Maybe you're catching the tail end, especially TNT was very good at doing this. Is like they'd play it once and then they'd play it back to back. So you might catch the end of the movie and then the beginning and then you go play. So like I might have seen just bits and pieces over the years.
That's how I first saw it, was on TNT, like really late at night when I couldn't sleep.
Here's another chance to stand up and cheer. Rocky, a new classic. See it twice Tuesday, May 27th, only on TNT.
What do you think of him as a character and like Sylvester Stallone playing him? Because like, you know, he wasn't really known at the time. And it's like well known now that the studio was thinking like maybe Burt Reynolds could do it, or Ryan O'Neal, or James Caan.
Yeah.
What do you think is the kind of thing that like could have worked with someone else other than Sly?
Yeah, I don't think it would have been the same movie.
Yeah.
You know, James Caan in particular, you know, there's a harshness to him that Rocky, the character, doesn't have. So I think it might have fallen into the more typical anti-hero, you know, and nihilistic viewpoint of the world film had a different actor been in it. Whereas Stallone, he brings a charm, you know, there's a vulnerability there for sure, but like there's a charm that is so important to this character that why does he even do what he does in this film? It's that he's underneath it all. He's just a guy that hasn't gotten the breaks in life, but he's got a good heart, but he doesn't always make the right choices. You know, he's a leg breaker for the local bookie, you know, the loan shark. He's, you know, his relationships are fuzzy at best. You don't really understand where he came from. You see a photo of his parents who are there, but they're not really mentioned at all. We know that his relationship with Mick is almost non-existent. You know, he's getting thrown out of the gym and he doesn't get any help. So if it was a harsher character, I don't think we would be rooting for him the same way. Like we're invested in this guy and seeing the way that he cares about and loves other people, even when it doesn't benefit him. Man, if you're a harsher guy or a harsher actor or have like that shell, you know, I don't know. I don't know that we could go all the way up to the end, even knowing he doesn't win. You're still just rooting for him in the whole process. The fact that, you know, people were getting up and cheering in theaters at the end of the film, at the day, lets you know that I think that's only Stallone could have brought that to that role.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like when he's supposed to break the guy's thumbs, like the loan shark one, like he's so uncomfortable with that. But yeah, like I can see Burt Reynolds or James Caan being like, okay, like yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he says he boxes because he can't sing or dance. Like he happens to be good at this one thing, but like he has no standing in the world. Like he's a loser pretty much from the outside. So like the tagline on the poster, which I think is one of the great taglines, it says his whole life was a 1,000,000 to 1 shot. So you've chosen to do something very unusual with your professional life, and I have too. So, what do you take from that, from Rocky, that character, being good at this one thing that almost no one succeeds at?
That watching it again over the last couple of days, again, kind of in bits and pieces, almost like I'm 8 years old again. Um, it's a lot of that resonated with me. It resonated with me both personally and almost even as a country, of like what is going on. That not everybody has these breaks that we are hoping for. And he is a talented fighter. It's something where he doesn't believe that he's talented enough to even face Apollo Creed. He turns down the fight at first. He's like, I can't do this. I'm going to get embarrassed. I'm just going to get made a fool of here. And he's self-aware in terms of, even the news crew is going to come talk to him that Paulie set up, and he's like, "Why are you doing this? They're going to embarrass me." So he's aware of like, I'm not. He at least he feels he's not good enough to actually do this. But in reality, we know, even by the end of this movie, let alone take on the whole mythology that goes throughout the other films, he is good enough to go toe to toe with the champ. And so, but he hasn't had people investing in him. That kind of even going back to like we don't know about his family, we don't know about his other relationships. He's kind of just a man on an island. And the people that do invest in him want something out of him. So Gazzo, the loan shark, yeah, he'll invest here. You're going to go out with Adrian. Here's $50. Go have a nice time. But he's not invested in Rocky really. He's invested in, well, you're the best leg breaker I got. Yeah, you're the muscle, man. So you're part of my crew, but I expect something out of you because that's what loan sharks do. They're your buddy until, you don't have the money to pay. And so, we don't know about families. We know Mick didn't invest in him. So, and everybody that does end up investing in him, well, not everybody, but certain people like Mick, it's after the point of he's already got something that they want. Even Paulie's kind of, they're buddies, but then he really is trying to get something from him. Now here's some steak, which he could have been giving steak to Rocky at any point in his life. But now that he's got the shot, here's some steak because I get free meat here at this place. And so it's, so for me, like to kind of get back to the question of like feeling that shot is some of it cuts a little deep on that. Like I am in a career, I'm a stand-up comedian when I almost feel like I am that person in the book. They have the book of boxers and where Apollo Creed's kind of going through and just looking at him. I feel like I'm just one of those guys in that book sometimes. And, but I guess maybe even at my age and maybe a maturity level, when I was younger, I didn't understand luck involved in things. The only thing that Rocky gets this title shot for is that this other fighter that's supposed to fight, has to back out. Apollo Creed wants to have a spectacle on the bicentennial of the country. So he wants a white fighter and he wants one that sounds interesting. And this guy happens to have the nickname Italian Stallion. If all of those things are in place, Rocky doesn't even get that shot. It's just being the club fighter and you don't have a locker anymore and, go back to fighting on, the Saturday nights and making $50 doing it and nothing ever happens. So that's the part that kind of resonates to me of just, man, so far somebody hasn't looked in the book and seen Italian Stallion for that championship spot. But also, I'm not in the dire straits that Rocky is in. So there's a little bit of that.
Do you feel like you've ever gotten something close to that chance to go the distance?
I do feel like there have been moments that I don't want to say somebody's looked in the book and picked me out, but I've gotten close to things where I thought, man, I am on the precipice of a championship fight. Maybe would be a good way to put it. Going the distance. I think that if I zoom out a little bit and focus on life in general or career in general, I have been given the opportunity to go the distance in my life, in this career. So I am still 20 years into comedy now, still going and making some sort of living off of this. And that I've seen people that drop off along this path. They just, for whatever reason, when I talk to comedians, newer comedians, I kind of say, this is what you're going to start to expect. After 5 years, those people that you started with at the open mics, you're going to start seeing people drop off. Like, this isn't going anywhere. I don't want to do this anymore. Then 10, you'll start to see people get a little more successful, and then and some that don't, and you'll see more drop off around that 10-year mark, where it's just like, man, I feel like I'm near something, but I got to get a job. I want to have, a family or something like that. You'll see that along the way. You'll start seeing people drop off. And now I'm seeing people that are even like 20 years into comedy where they're like, all right, look, I just didn't make it. I'm going to have to do something else. I'm going to start selling real estate or something like that. I'm moving out of New York City, or people that move out of Los Angeles. I'm going to go live in Florida. I'm going to go live in North Carolina. I'm just going to have a life, and I'm going to have a different thing. So I'm still going. So I don't know if I've gone the distance. Maybe that's something that is a lifelong thing, but I'm still in the fight. I'm still going. Maybe I'm in the sixth round or something like that, but I'm still in it. I haven't been knocked out yet.
Mm-hmm. So what keeps you, from why have you stuck with it when so many other people have kind of dropped off? Because like you said, you've been at it for over 20 years.
Mm-hmm. I was told very early on, perseverance was one of the main things preached. You have to persevere. You have to, there's going to be highs and lows, and you have to like persevere through. So it kind of ingrained in me that notion that I'm going to have to persevere. And trust me, there was plenty of times, I tell this to new comics, like there's times where I was 8 years in comedy, maybe more, where I was just laying face down in the bed, face in pillow, just going, I don't know what I'm doing. Like maybe I've made a wrong choice. Maybe this is not what I'm supposed to be doing. And part of it is there's something in me, maybe internal or maybe external. Maybe there's some heavenly thing, I don't know, that came in and said, go another day. Go, take one more step. And then something would open up. I would, I get hired to do a club, or I would get a little TV spot, or eventually starting to do bigger things like a special, or doing an album, or those type of things where I'm like, oh, well, maybe I did. Maybe I am supposed to do this. And I got to the point where basically every time I was on stage, I was doing very well. When you're early on in something, it's hard to do something well. You're learning that process, and that can take its toll on an ego and self-esteem. Maybe if you want maybe a more positive term for it. And you have to kind of tear it down and build it back up, almost like you're in the army or playing basketball for a harsh coach. I have a theory of comedy that I call the confidence tank. You have to fill the confidence. It's like a hot water heater, If you use all of that up, then you're getting a real cold shower. But if you can fill it up and do things that help fill it up, then you're able to operate at a different level. You're really able to be in your comfort level and have a nice warm shower. And so I just did things over the years that helped build that up. And I stopped doing things that would tear it down. And I think that's what has allowed perseverance.
Okay, so for myself now, I would like to know what were the things that you noticed were tearing it down that you had to stop doing?
Well, there's almost a delineation point in my comedy life where I was like, I can't continue doing that. And it's a very specific example for me is that I was at an open mic. And this is, gosh, I'm probably 5 years into comedy, something like that, 6 years into comedy. I was doing other things. I had the show that we ran at Postmark Cafe that Abby and I ran. I had different spots, different places, but I was still doing some open mics. And there was an open mic where there's a lot of people that are now very successful, but we were all just open micers together. But a surprisingly large number of people end up being professional out of this. But at this open mic, we're all in this basement of this comedy club, and I'm watching everybody the way that you typically would do. And then it became my turn. And so when I went up, the host called me up. The host got off stage. Everybody in the room left the room. Except, like literally everybody. There was one guy left.
Oh,
there was like
man.
me and one guy that sat there.
Oh, man.
And
Okay.
I don't remember the guy who sat there, but I do remember everybody that left. And then the host came back in when it was my time to be done. About 5, 6 minutes later, he brought that guy that was sitting down up. I sat down and watched him. He finished, and then everybody came back in the room. And that's one of those things that just destroyed the confidence, where I'm like, these people that I've done mics with for years, or shows, little bar shows or coffee shop shows, they don't even respect me enough to be in the back of the room. They left the room. Now, there could be 1,000 different reasons. It could be somebody wanted a cigarette and they all went outside or something like that. I don't know why they left.
But you can't not take it personally, though.
Yeah, they didn't leave during each other's sets for that. And so it was me. And so it just, I felt humiliated, really, is probably the best way to put it. It's just stripped down of like, I'm not good. I'm not even worth being in the room for. That's what you guys think of me. And I said, I can't do that anymore. Like, I can't go to these mics that is just a bunch of comics and that's the way they're going to behave towards me. So I just stopped. I found mixed mics that were musicians and poets and a couple comedians. We did our show, but then I started finding other people that did shows like ours. But I just wasn't going to go back to that bunch of comedians just walking out of the room type of event.
I only laughed because I've been to film festivals where it's like it's my film's turn and the room is so small, like it's so empty that it's like why don't they just go to the next film, because it doesn't seem like there's anybody here for this one. I came and I brought a few people, but that feeling, it's only because I'm recognizing that feeling of humiliation. That comes with the sort of things that we've chosen to do with our lives.
Yes. And I think that in some ways, when you are doing something that requires public consumption, that you're kind of opening yourself up to the world. We're not accountants here. An accountant can make a big mistake or even not make a mistake, just do something and get fired from a job. Like, I'm going to get a different accountant. That's kind of humiliating, but you're not doing it in front of everybody. We're doing this in the public viewpoint, and it leaves you open and more raw to, wow, not only am I embarrassed, privately, I'm being embarrassed publicly,
You can't deny the embarrassment because there are lots of witnesses.
Yes. Yeah. Or in our case, very few witnesses.
Right. You can't even fail the right way.
You're right. And it's harsh and it hurts. And, it's almost like Rocky there, where I think that fear was, I'm going to go embarrass myself in front of a lot of people. And the worst case scenario might be like just nobody cares.
Yeah. I always say that I would rather I would rather people hate something I've done than feel indifferent about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like if you're going to fall flat on your face, it's almost better to have a whole arena full of people to see you at least put the effort in than no one shows up and you fail anyway.
Yeah, it's very Andy Kaufman like viewpoint of the like
Yeah.
performance.
Well,
Somebody better have an emotion out of it.
right. As you know, I'm a fan.
Yeah.
So I've never heard, other than Rocky, there are very few movies where we're rooting for the characters so much that we feel like it's what happens to them is happening to us. I mean, like a movie that's doing its job is you're feeling empathy for those people, but to the point where you said, like, there are reports from 1976 when that movie came out, the people were standing up and cheering like it was a real sporting event.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think that says about moviegoers in general, people in general, that we related with him so much and wanted him to succeed so much?
I've thought about that a little bit over the last couple of days, even though that's not, you didn't prep me with that type of question. I think it just, the film itself almost demands us think that question. And I heard somebody recently say that people want to see someone succeed. You want to see them succeed because we can see our hopes in that person. But if you get too successful and removed, you get the population starts to get resentful of that person because you remind them of the dreams that they have unfulfilled. And Rocky never passes that point, particularly in this film, of passing that point where now we no longer see our dreams fulfilled. We're seeing him right up to the edge of making his dreams come true and doesn't quite get it. He doesn't win the championship, but what's important is he has this love that he didn't have at the beginning of the film. And he's a likable guy. And he's also not that hero that you might have seen in a James Bond film where they have it all together. Everything goes right for them. They have the answers to everything. He doesn't have the answers. He doesn't always make the right choice, but he's got this heart of gold that says, I'm creating this, chosen family. That's a more modern term, chosen family, but that's what he has there. He has this pet shop girl who nobody is looking at, and he says, we feel gaps. She's got gaps. I got gaps. We feel gaps. But there's a moment where you see what his influence is, his love of these people does for people in the other characters is Paulie walks in on Adrian and Rocky sitting there. And they're kind of talking like, oh, what's Paulie want from me? I don't know. And he starts getting upset, breaking stuff. And he's saying to Adrian, like, you owe me. And she's like, what do I owe you? I've done everything for you, and you made me feel like a loser. And there's some subtext there, which is Rocky made me feel like a winner. You even see her appearance start to change. And Rocky infused that confidence in her. He helped fill her confidence tank. And he starts doing that for everybody. There's nobody that he's just done with. He wants to be done with them. He wants to walk away from Paulie. He wants to walk away from Mick. But there's something in him that he just can't do it. He can't give up. And there's something that I think when we're watching it, you can have multiple feelings with Rocky. Is one, I don't want somebody giving up on me. I don't want the world to give up on me. I want somebody to, he's making us feel good too. He's infusing us with that confidence and also making, as we relate to the character and seeing ourselves, it's like, I don't want to give up. I want to keep going. He's infusing each one of those characters with that will to go on and to move forward and to do something different with their lives. He's doing that with us. And so now we're in, he's invested in us as an audience. He's invested in the characters. We're now invested in him.
Yeah.
Wherever he's going to go, we're with him.
Right. Yeah, and who are the people who have done that for you? Like, who are the people who make you feel like a winner, who have never given up on you?
Wow. Well, I'm sure I have to start with family.
Hmm.
So my general family, I don't know that there was a huge infusion of confidence, but my nephew, who is only 9 years younger than me because my siblings are older, was always like, "You're hilarious. You're great. You're gonna make it. And this is gonna be great." Abby, my wife, not only is she a comedian and had various successful peaks in her career, she has always been with me like, "Yep, you got this. You can do this." But then I think there's also individuals over the years that I've worked with. Sometimes it's just a word or two. There's lots of those little moments that have helped me along the way that I feel like somebody has done that to me, done that for me, and it's not just family or just my wife, there's just little moments. And I think that also makes me think about what I can do for others with that. Sometimes just saying, "Man, you've gotten really good," is just enough that maybe will help them keep going. We're now getting close to 50 years ago this film came out. And just the way that, society, just the way people interact, it's like I think that we're looking now as a people for like that person that to make us feel good, to invest in us and invest in others and go the distance. So,
Well, I think probably most people don't really believe in themselves.
hmm
I mean, if they wake up in the middle of the night and you ask them, "Do you believe in yourself?" The answer is probably no. So somebody who has such severe doubts, but going the distance anyways, I think that's probably what makes us keep coming back 50 years later.
hmm I really appreciate, first of all, Stallone as a writer, because his story, also knowing his story, just the fact that the movie itself was such a long shot. We're cheering for the person, we're cheering for the actor, we're cheering for everybody in between the actual making and release of this film. We want this to be successful as a people, and the story on top of it just amazing. It brings it. If it he look, he could have had that great story, and it be a real stinker of a film. It could be, stop or my mom will shoot type of thing. It'd be like, oh no, nobody's gonna care.
One of Estelle Getty's better movies.
Yeah.
But still, yeah, it didn't resonate quite the way Rocky did.
Yeah.
Well, for what it's worth, I'm glad you're still doing what you do. I'm glad I'm still doing what I do.
Me too.
Yeah.
I have the perseverance. We're going to go the distance.
Thank you for listening to Why This Movie. If you have a movie that you love that you'd like to talk about, email me at christopherallenmaloney@gmail.com, and you may be featured on an upcoming show.